everyone. Let me just begin by saying I think that what we're witnessing on Wall Street is a response of the American people in opposition to this bailout. It's been portrayed as a bailout of Wall Street, but in effect, it's a bailout of the two-party system that in effect allowed both the Democrats and the Republicans to make poor choices that they now want the American people to pay for. And the response has been largely a populist one. There are members of Congress on the left and on the right who are saying they have not heard a cogent argument for why we should pay for the excesses of these financial institutions. Let me go a little bit further and say it's interesting to watch the two political parties try to lay blame on one another. But what we have seen is the slow erosion of many of the regulations that have been in place since the stock market crash of the early part of the 20th century. Slowly, we have allowed banking institutions to sort of merge together with brokerage firms, to merge together with insurance firms. And what they've done is they've created a false wealth in this country, false production. They have allowed mortgages to be repackaged as securities, to be traded wildly, while they were being bought with other securities and other borrowed money. This has been a failure, and what we're now witnessing is the market correcting itself. And for all those, free market capitalists who have always told us they don't want regulation, let them explain it to the American people. One of the things that the United States has to do is we have to have a conversation and direction as it relates to the future of the Federal Reserve. This was an entity that originally was created for the purpose of currency elasticity. It was in place to deal with the phenomena that was happening at the turn of the 19th, 20th century, when there were often crises that led people to want to take their money out of banks. This has slowly turned into what I heard Cindy talking about, which is an entity that creates inflation, that essentially, without any determination, any vote of Congress, appropriates essentially the creation of money. And we have to revisit this phenomena. We are too often, as Americans, satisfied that our institutions have to stay the way that they've always been. And just like we have seen other things fall, things that we thought weren't capable of ever changing, this too is going to change. What the United States, I think, needs to do is we need to do what some of the other financial institutions have done as they try to deal with this crisis. We saw Barclays buy Lehman's, but they didn't buy the portion of Lehman's that included the bad debt that wasn't worth anything. They went into bankruptcy court and bought the portion of the institution that was solvent. And the American people likewise, through this government and perhaps by converting this public-private entity into a public bank, ought to aggressively try to shore up the portion of these institutions that are solvent. And I think the other thing that we have to do is we have to go after the home mortgages. We have to bolster up these mortgages. We should buy them out of default. We should buy them out of bankruptcy. We should offer them back to the original owners at interest rates that they can afford. We owe that to them because the two-party system failed them. We allowed these mortgages to be repackaged and sold, understanding that there would be defaults. But the institutions didn't care because if somebody defaulted on a home mortgage loan, it had no impact on them. Home prices were strong. They could take the defaulted property and resell it, and they did not care about the American taxpayer, citizen, consumer, the person at the bottom. So let's see how this unfolds. The biggest concern I have is that the way the media is trying to respond to what's happening is as if the only solution is a bailout. And it's clearly not the case. Let's see these things unfold. Let's see the market correct itself. And if it means that the $400 wealthiest investors that made close to $1 trillion the last 4 years or so. Let's see the market correct their wealth. Thank you.